Hey, welcome to this exclusive training where we will cover exactly how to actually generate a code and go to a live app in just 10 to 15 minutes. A simple non-technical guide to GitHub and what I call as a vercel deployments, right? I'm sure you've been hearing that you don't have to know coding today. AI can generate the code and you can deploy the applications. But still, if you're not able to do, I'm sure what is holding you back maybe what is the steps involved, how do I do this, right? So you may have an idea, but then how do I use AI code, something like a Claude, or maybe there are various other tools to build it, and what is this code base? It generates a code base. Should I know this code base? What does this contains? And then there is something called GitHub where you save the code, and then there is a vercel, which is a what I call as a build deployment, and then you go to a live app. So if you really come back from the reverse, I have built so many applications over the last 6 months. For example, here's an application we built, Greener Bangalore, like how do we project, or there is simple application like this. How do you involve conversation Aikido or prompt architect, how to generate a prompt. So these are applications. These are not simple one web page where you can actually enter and there is a lot of series of action happens, or even a complex application like this Gita visual guide where all the chapters of Gita is converted into some visual form. Now this is all required almost 6 months to 3 months to build it, but then deployment and all is much faster. Now the deal pilot, this is another application where we have built, which is helping sales pipeline for people, how coaching platform. So all these application I've built. Now what you're seeing is an end of application, but this application is based on what I call as a vercel. It is hosted on built using a vercel, and then the vercel is connected to a GitHub where the code stores, and that GitHub includes my code base, what is generated by AI Builder. Like most of these have been generated by Claude. Now the Claude won't do anything unless I give an idea. So in the reverse. So now let us say you have an idea, you want to actually start using a Claude to build a code, and you want to go with a live application. It may be a CRM dashboard you want to do, or you may want to develop some social projects, hobby projects, or anything for that matter, like a coaching platform or like that. How do you go about it? So we will not talk about the idea part, we will just talk about the deployment part, right? So what is that? First thing is to know the AI will generate a code. And for example, in this case, here was the project I had, and I gave the project exact detail, and then Claude started working, and Claude gave me the first version of this code, right? Here is the first version of a code Claude gave me. So I'm just going to see some more things. As you see, this is the first version the Claude has given. I have not written a single line of code, and then Claude gave me a complete code base like this. And if you really see, now I downloaded this, and here is the folder where all these files are there. Um, so these are the code base. What is this code base exactly consists? This consists what we call as a front end files, back end logic, some database if you are connecting, some API integration, which is again we will cover maybe in the next video, but configuration files, design assets. But as I said, I have not done any coding. This is a code which is given by Claude, but I have used this code base and built a workflow to do this. So think of it like it's a complex, complete blueprint of materials of building. So without this, you cannot deploy anything. Without this, you cannot update or you cannot run. So just like a building, you need cement, you need iron, you need bricks. So the code base is like that. Only when you have all these raw materials, you can build a building, similarly an application. But these things are given by Claude. As I said earlier, to do this, this is where the software engineer's job was there. Now, how AI code builders, right? There are lots of tools available, AI code builders. There is a Lovable, Bolt, you might have heard, Replicate, Cursor. All these are open AI, also exists, Claude, even the Gemini. So we will just go with the Claude now. I have used Replicate, I have used Lovable. So what this Claude or anything generates, an application, I'm talking not just a simple web page. An application is that it generates all these codes, React, API, database, all these things it reacts, generates, and we need to connect these things. And in the process, the first connections, basically all AI tool generates, this becomes our code base. And the first thing to connect is what we call as a GitHub. Now, what is this GitHub? Now, GitHub is where we save the files, we store. Because the Claude generates a code, and that code, sometimes we make add changes, we have to make some changes to that, just like we need a place to store this. And that is just like a Google Drive where we save our Excel, Word files, and all. GitHub is exclusive for code. So it stores the code, you can track some changes, enable team collaboration, roll back mistakes, all these things happen. So this is a very efficient, it's a very free for everybody. You can just go to github.com and then create an account and you can start doing it. So how do you do this? So what we call in the GitHub is there is a repository. That means for every one project, you can open a folder, just like in the computer, how you open a folder, it's a repository, and you can start saving the files. Whatever the Claude has given, entire application, all version, everything is saved there, and also who has contributed, a lot of details you can know, so that sometimes you want to go back, you want to make some, reverse some changes, all those things are possible. And there are some comments available for the GitHub to do. This is very important also. How do I use GitHub? This is where some of the comments exist, like what we commands exist, version tracking. So there is a commit, there is a push, pull, branch. So these are, you got to know it when you are using GitHub, using a command prompt, which we will see. But these are simple as explained. Commit means if I make a change, I need to use the commit. If I want to push some code, I need to use a push. Pull, there are maximum around 5 to 7 lines of instruction exists. If you know this, we will give you, everything will be taken care 99% of the time. So let's see what is the GitHub. So I will show you my GitHub to really get an idea, right? So here is my GitHub. So this is my GitHub. I have created Prashant Godrehall.beep, and as you see, I have lots of files also. Repositories I have connected, total 24 repositories. So for example, this Greener Bangalore is that's a repository. These are the files which is again given by the ChatGPT itself, the Claude itself has given me these files. So those are the files I have put here, and so I can always go ahead and create a new repository whenever I want to build a new project. So this is the same file structure what we have here, similar to what the Claude has given, and what I have here. In my local computer, I also have the same thing. So I do that as a first thing. Now then the second thing which is very important to remember is GitHub saves you the code, but then that code needs to be compiled and built to actually go live. This is where the platform vercel comes in. Now this is a very powerful platform which is made life easy for everybody. So you can build any application, you can host it online, gives you a URL, updates automatically in every push. That means any make you changes, your complete website or your application changes. So it's a very simple setup, very fast deployment, and great for the code which is mostly generated by these agents, Claude and other things. So if you see all my code, right, if you see, I have still kept vercel. That means it is still built on the vercel and it is available on the vercel. So like this. So these are the things which I have built. Now let's understand little more on this. How do we see this vercel, right? So I will show you. This is the vercel platform. So again, you can go to vercel.com and you create, and once you create this vercel platform, you can connect the GitHub to that. It's very easy to connect to GitHub. So once you connect to GitHub, you can add a new projects. So when you come to a new project, you can see your GitHub which is connected. There are different GitHub accounts. I have connected this, and you will see the project. So you can import the project, and once you import the project, this will start building, and it will give you a URL like this. So that's the whole, very fast it does. You don't have to do a lot more of work, and everything gets taken care. As you see here, this is the URL which is given already for me, and I can just take this and I can give it to anybody. So if I want to change my domain name like this, Geeta Visual, I can also connect to a domain. Um, as you say, I can connect to a domain itself, and then it will give me that domain name, custom domain I can connect. So that's the vercel part. So the three things which we saw was the code base being built, then the GitHub, and then the vercel. I will show you in the demo exactly how this works. But now let's go to some more small elements, which is what is this code and all. So whenever AI generates code, you just have to remember a couple of things. One is there is a front end code, which we call as a React. So this is what is REST code, which is mostly screen layout, buttons, user, all these things, right? Then there is also, it generates a backend code, which is mostly what we call as a Node.js code. This involves mostly authentication, data processing, and all these things it involves. And then there is also a Python. Sometimes it generates a lot of TypeScript, Python. So these are the codes which is machine learning, workflow automation, complex if you are doing. These are it uses this Python code. So these are the things it uses. You don't have to know exactly, but it's a code which is generated, and that's where you will see different kinds of files and folders. Now, how does we do? So there are two options. The first option, which I have used extensively, because this was what available 6 months or 1 year down the line, was manual option. That means I generate a code using a Claude. I download that code. It comes as a .zip file. I save it in my folder, and then I build it. I push to GitHub. I connect and deploy. So this is what mostly I have done for a lot, and this is best for anybody like two teams, production, multiple editing. If you want to do, it has more control because the code is with you, better, easy to track, and easy to for different teams to do. So what's the steps for this? If you really see, you take an idea, you work with the Claude, and Claude generates a code, and download that code. And once you download the code, it will open into a folder like this. So I have got lots of code like this, as you see. This is a greener Bangalore. That's a folder I have done like this. And then, so there is a lot of this zip I will get. And once the zip is given, I do this, as I said here. There are a lot of codes I have generated. And once the code is generated, what we do is we go to a command prompt, which I will show you, and we run these commands, run npm install npm test locally. So I can open locally. I don't need a vercel. I don't need a GitHub. I can open locally, and in the local means it will give me a simple URL in the browser. I can open, I can test it, and only after that I can push to GitHub and deploy to vercel. So that is what I can do it very fast with these things. So that's the advantage of this local. So I need to do, but only thing is I need to know some command prompts for this. So that means I need to go to a command prompt terminal like this. There is a terminal like this we get in the Mac. I'm using a Mac, and if anyone has used, you go to a terminal, you get a terminal like this. Using this terminal, I can go to this folder. Then once I go to the folder, I start working on this one. I have to run some commands. So we will see this and check the files. And once I do this, then I create a GitHub repository, project name, and all these things we do. And then we get a certain commands to push the code to the GitHub. Once I push the code to the GitHub, um, with using these commands, what is given, these are 5 commands, I can now access the code in the GitHub, and then I connect the GitHub to vercel, or if I make some changes, I have a couple of small changes to the I have make some changes means a small instruction exists to add new changes to the code, and then finally I can log into vercel, add a new project, connect to GitHub, select repository and click deploy. So all these things happens very quickly. Now let us see how do we do this, right? Okay, let's see how we can build this application here. I built this, so how we do this here. So first thing is I went to Claude and I asked him to build a code. And as you see, it has also built the code and given some commands to run. So I am going to go this, download these files. I have already downloaded these files. And if you see, I have downloaded the file into this demo project file.1 zip it comes, and then when we open it, I renamed it as a focus.flow. And then what is required is to open the terminal, and in the terminal I have already run some commands. So what is the first command we need to uh, do is that to move to that folder. So I was in another folder, means I need to make sure that I go to that folder. So here is the folder where I have all the files. Now first command what is need to be run is I've already run this command, which is npm install. As you see, I had run this command npm install, so it installs the some of the files. And then what I just need to do is once I install that, I can run this npm run dev, and once I run dev I get this URL. So this is a simple URL, and I can post this URL here, and then I get a, this is at a local level I am getting. So I'm not doing anything, so I cannot share this link to anyone. They will not be able to access. Now if we need application to go live, where you can access through various you can share to others and do that, means that's where the GitHub um, requirement comes. So let us go to do this, how we can do this. Now here is the GitHub I had told. So you should have created an account of GitHub, and when you create an account of GitHub, you get like this, and there is a repository first thing comes. Now in the repository, we can first click what I call as a new. So this is my name of GitHub. So I will name this as a focus flow. So there is a GitHub available. So I'm just keeping everything same here, nothing. I just need to create a GitHub. So it got created a repository, and it is given here the commands what you need to do, everything. So let us run these commands, git init. So let me do Control C. So I exit from here. So I'm going to initialize now the git. So it got initialized. Now git add read, we can run this or we can skip that. That is not the most important. Then git commit. This next command, which is very important to run. So I am going to do this. There are also something like what I would say git add dot also is important. We can add. So instead of git commit, I would rather first make sure that we add git add dot. So after this, let us go to git commit. So now the commit files, all these files are got committed. Then I'm going to do a git branch main. Now this is another command where it creates a branch. Okay, so the key thing is to add the next command, which is git remote add. So this is an important command which will push. So I've already added here. So if you see the git remote add get command is added, and then there is a final command which is about git push origin main. So you can always ask Claude also what are the commands to be run. So it will give you the exact instructions, and git push origin main. So now just with these 6 commands, we can see that our code is actually available in the GitHub. So if you go to the code focus flow. As I said, um, these are the commands, so we can see that the code is already exists here. Now that this code exists, what we need to do is we already have a vercel. If you have created a vercel account, you will be able to see vercel account you would have created. You can actually, you will get something like this, and you can add new a project. So there is a way to connect your vercel with the GitHub, and then you can see the project. And as you see here, there is a project has arrived here, so I can import this project. So I don't have to do anything. I can import. There are these environmental variables. These things comes when you actually have additional like APIs and all. So we will see in another. So in this, for now, just in this small project, there is nothing. So we just need to, as I said, there is nothing to set here. We can just click deploy. So let us see. So it will take few seconds, maximum 40 to 1 minute. And this is a very small project. It got deployed very quickly. And as you see here, it is got deployed, and you can go to the dashboard, and it gives you a very simple URL. And this is the URL where now the project is available. So voila. So the project you can now share to anybody. Later, if you want to change the domain name, you can change the domain name. So as you saw, the whole process is takes around 5 to 10 minutes. So you just need to run these commands and then create a GitHub new repository, give a project name, click create repository, and copy URL, and finally pushing your first version to the GitHub, which will basically do all these what I suggested. And then let's say you make some change. What happens is whenever you make some change, some code, if you are making a change, then Claude will give you the file which has got changed. So you have to save that file. You have to overwrite the file in your folder, and after that you just have to run these three commands: git add, git commit, and git push. um, so once you run these commands, suddenly the GitHub receives your updated code, and again the vercel detects, and the new code is already changed. File will be available. So that is all which will happen. So I will be sharing some these commands. You can always see in the links. So now what is the next thing is now there is another option is available, right? Now GitHub to vercel, as we said, it's a very simple. We just showed you that. But there is another option which is also available, what I call option 2. But so which is the AI, the Claude itself can push to GitHub. You don't want to run these commands. You don't want to download code to your folder. You don't want to test in the local. Then there is an option where Claude can directly push the code to GitHub, and vercel connects and the app deploys. So this is for beginners, fast prototypes. You don't have to do much. So now this is something where if you need to install a Claude code, Claude, then what it does is Claude will get access to your everything, and it will do. So no manual code update is required. Faster iteration. So whenever a new change is there, Claude directly pushes to GitHub, and vercel detects and auto redeploys. Now this is a fast becoming more easier for anyone. So you can ask, like I've seen, Claude. Basically, Claude. Most of the Claude actually asks like that. So in this, it is not asking. But let me show some. Yeah, in some other places it asks me, like I can install like this Claude directly. Let the Claude edit. So when I install Claude Codex or desktop app, then whenever I make changes, Claude directly does all the commands. It doesn't, I don't have to even run these commands. So that's the beauty of that. I think it's very easy to explain. I don't need to explain on this, but Claude will do all these things. So overall, what I say is that there are some errors you may get. Build failed. Again, you can go to Claude and ask. Claude will give you permission denied. All these things, whatever you face issue, the best is to capture that and give it to Claude, and Claude will give you the right solution which you can immediately implement. So the modern AI development is uh, the new workflow. Uh, Main thing is AI generates most of the code. You don't have to. Anybody non-technical can launch apps. Developer can focus on architectures. Speed of iteration, how quickly you do is important. But the real skill is understanding these workflows, managing repository, deploying. These are something which is you just need to learn once, and it becomes very easy for them. So you can deploy it. So now if you have any idea, definitely you can go ahead and try. If you want help in building these ideas, that's where a lot of people mistake also. They don't know how to chat with Claude, how to build these codes, because if you don't give correct instructions, Claude will generate a lot of things which may not actually be what you are looking for. So again, a beginner stack, AI coding, go with the Claude, which is the best, or Replit or something like that. Code storage, GitHub, deployment, vercel. Again, the front end, back end, these are all you just need to know. Then there are these APIs if you want to integrate LLM, if you want to integrate a database like Superbase is available. So those are some things extra is available. So some of the best practice, um, keep backups always, common commit frequently, test before always, and use variables. So these are things. Avoid, again, do not change code by yourself. Storing APIs, don't use APIs. That's again in another video we'll see. Huge contracts, skipping testing, and all these things. Don't do that. So final thing, what it means: code base, the product, GitHub storage, Git change tracking, vercel is deployment, React is front end, Node.js back end, Python is AI code. That's the whole thing. So the 5 minute I showed you this demo, and the final thing is the building apps has changed, fast experimentation, clear thinking, and rapid development. These are the things. AI generates lots of code, small teams can launch, and your workflow, understanding everything, not just this what we covered. There are some more things like database, how to integrate payment, all these things becomes most important for now. So which can be again done very quickly, but knowing those is more important now. So if you have any questions, write in the comments, and if you have ideas, as I said, let me know. You can book schedule a call and we can discuss, and let's implement. See you.